News, I'm Wesley. U.S. forces responding after Iran planted mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Trey Yingst has the latest.
Iran has indicated they are laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Reports indicate, though, there are less than 10 of these sea mines placed already. U.S. Central Command taking offensive action against this threat to global shipping lanes, saying that they struck at least 16 mine-laying vessels belonging to the Iranian regime. As this continues, it's a major threat to the global shipping lanes, understanding that 20% of the world's oil passes through this area. President Trump taking to Truth Social, saying in a statement, quote, "If for any reason mines were placed and they are not removed forthwith, the military consequences to Iran will be at a level never seen before. If, on the other hand, they remove what may have been placed, it will be a giant step in the right direction."
The U.S. has degraded Iran's navy and now seems well on its way to degrading Iran's mine-laying capability. So what else can Iran do to block the vital oil shipping lane? Here's former NSC Chief of Staff under President Trump, Alex Gray.
Well, they're running out of options. I mean, the reality is the U.S. Navy has trained for decades to be able to keep the Strait open. The Iranians have some asymmetrical capabilities, so think, additional proxy and terrorist group options. But we're really starting to show, I think when you saw yesterday the U.S. Navy successfully leading tankers through the Straits, I think you're starting to see the U.S. is really showing that we have naval mastery in the most critical choke point in the region.
A tornado ripping through northern Illinois last night, causing property damage. Katie Byrne has more from Kankakee, Illinois.
City officials here in Kankakee say at least 7 people were hurt in this. They don't believe anyone was missing, which is definitely good news. We know that crews were out through the night looking through debris to make sure of that and checking into a lot of 911 calls. They were inundated with those calls coming in, of course, from people who live in the area, but also family members maybe looking out for people who are in town as well. Now, we also have been seeing down power lines around here as well. So things are not really functioning as they normally would because of these outages. They don't appear to be widespread, but we do have a number of outages, at least 150 without power.
A longtime House Democrat beats back a primary challenge from a younger candidate in Mississippi.
No surprise, Benny Thompson wins the Democratic Party nomination in Mississippi's 2nd Congressional District with 86% of the vote against antitrust attorney Evan Turnage. He's 34 years old. Thompson's 78. In Congress since 1993, the top Democrat on the House Homeland Security Committee. The primary for his Republican opponent is too close to call.
A former FBI agent and Navy SEAL says it was fortunate that explosives didn't go off at a recent New York City protest.
2 men who brought explosives to a New York City protest last weekend said they were inspired by the Islamic State terrorist group, according to a court complaint. The 2 were held without bail after their arraignment on Monday on charges that include attempting to provide material support to a terrorist organization and using a weapon of mass destruction. Jonathan Gilliam, a former FBI agent and Navy SEAL, was a guest on Washington Watch and talked about what the men threw.
So this particular device, TATP, it's basically a form of hydrogen peroxide and acetone, and it's very, very unstable. I mean, they're very lucky that when they threw those, that just the shock alone can make that go off, let alone lighting a fuse. It's very interesting how it did not go off. So they must have left something out of that. Had that gone off, it would have been massive. There were shrapnel bolts and all kinds of things in there. And typically, straight out of the playbook of ISIS.
He said terror groups have shifted to other elements to avoid detection from dogs.
Homegrown leftists, along with that, the Red-Green Alliance, which is Islam and communism, we see that everywhere. That's why you see leftists trying to push Hamas forward, and in this case, you see individuals that are Muslim throwing IEDs. And in this case, these 2 individuals that carried this attack out, or attempted attack, came from Pennsylvania.
I'm Robert Thornton.
For American Family News, I'm Wesley.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildmon and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. Announcer just told you, my name's Tim Wildmon, and in studio with me is Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Brother Ed.
Hey, good morning, Tim.
Fred Jackson.
Hello there.
Fred, your brother, too.
Mm-hmm.
And Wesley Wildmon is just now sitting down. Decided to show up for the show, did you, Wesley?
Hey, listen, duty calls sometimes.
Huh?
I put out some fires on the way down, too.
Oh, you didn't start any fires.
I didn't start any.
When he says way down, on the way down, he's talking about our offices are upstairs.
Yes.
So he walked down the stairs.
Okay, that's an excuse that I had to get coffee. But
okay.
There's different kind of fire you have to put out.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, everybody, thanks for listening to American Family Radio. We appreciate it very, very much. Yes, Ed?
Well, I would like to let listeners know, they may already know that we have a share-a-thon coming up in April 7, 8, and 9.
Uh-huh.
And it is that time of the year where we start gathering stories to play during our spring share-a-thon. And so I want to let our listeners know, Tim, that we cherish their stories about how AFR has been a blessing to them, how God has used this ministry to bless them. So if the Lord has used American Family Radio in your life, if we've been there, given the right thought at just the right time, that kind of thing, please, we want you to share your story. We'd like to hear your AFR story because it could be a blessing and encouragement to others. How do you do that? Well, I'm glad you asked because I'm glad they asked because I'm going to tell them.
You tell them, Ed.
I'm going to tell them how they can do that. We want you to call and share for a minute or two. All right. Let me just say this as nicely, as sweetly. I'm a sweet person.
You are, Ed.
Let me tell y'all as sweetly as possible.
Sweet Italian.
We don't.
Sweet is sweetly.
I'm like a sweet Italian pepper.
Sweet is
okay, or sweet Italian sausage, whatever.
What do you want to?
Or lasagna. Okay, so we don't want your whole life story.
Be careful.
Okay. Yeah, I started.
You're starting to slip.
I started to slip over
slipping from being
hot
sweet
Italian
to being a regular Italian.
We can't play real long testimonies. How about that?
A minute or two.
A minute or two. We can't play real long testimonies. But if you want to call and share, you might hear yourself during Share-a-thon. Here's the listener story hotline. Okay. 877-876. Excuse me.
What happened?
8893. Just got an air bubble or something.
Okay. Well,
I don't know what that was.
Kind of a pause. I didn't know what happened. I was going to resuscitate you or something?
I'm just shaking my head for those that can't see because you started off and I thought, you know what? You're doing better than I did yesterday.
Oh.
And now I'm thinking, you know what? Do you mean get this?
You're bringing this all back to you, aren't you?
That's like I did when I walked in coming late.
Just to be clear, I just want before you give that number again. What you're going to do, you're going to call this phone number that Ed's about to give.
Right.
Assuming he gives it.
I can
without
without choking up.
Yeah. And when you call, there's not a live person that's going to answer the phone.
Right.
I don't think. It's going to be a recording. They're going to say, please leave your recording. That's when you leave your listener testimony about the AFR's impact on your life. We use those during our share-a-thon. So you'll say, hey, this is Betty.
Giuseppe.
Yeah, this is Betty from Little Rock, and I just want to tell you how AFR. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. You don't need to leave your last name or anything. We would like your first name and the town you live in or the state or the station you listen to. Go ahead. Okay.
So here's the number, 877-876-8893. You're going to be hearing this all week for a while now on your favorite American Family Radio shows. 877-876-8893. There you go.
And those are very...
We love them.
We love them. We love them. We play them during our share-a-thon. So we love to hear from our listeners. All right, Tim, Ed, Wesley, and Fred. Fred, what's our first story?
Well, we have a lot of news to report on the war against Iran, but first want to bring it back home for a few moments. If you haven't heard, in the last several days, Michigan, now Illinois, Indiana, on the calendar it's still winter, but they are getting late spring type weather to the point of tornadoes. Don't know if you guys saw several days ago the damage done by tornadoes in Michigan this time of the year.
Yeah. Right.
And then last night in Illinois and Indiana, tornadoes struck, and in the northwestern Indiana community of Lake Village, 2 people died there from injuries suffered when a tornado hit that area. Also, in Kankakee, Illinois, we have a station there.
We do.
Yeah.
Kankakee, I think.
Kankakee, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
The county sheriff there is Mike Downey, and tornadoes hit through that area. There was a twister ripped across a field of farmland there near an airport while vehicles lined the road. And I'll tell you what, so we need to be, normally when we talk about tornadoes, we mention Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas. This is unusual, especially this time of the year for tornadoes in this part of the country. So be praying for them. And apparently there's another wave of bad weather that's working its way coming out of Texas once again.
I'm looking at it right now. We appreciate it, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for sending all that weather to the rest of us out here. Yeah, you're right. The Midwest. You don't think of Illinois and Indiana or Michigan experiencing tornadoes. Now they do get tornadoes, but usually in May.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not this time of year. You're right. And then I'm seeing another wave of.
Through the Midwest and going to roll right through here where our flagship station is.
We had tornado sirens go off, tornado warning sirens go off 2 days ago.
Yes.
Yeah. It's my least favorite part of the year. Well, I like spring, but spring in the South and Texas, do the tornado sirens, do they move you at all, Ed, or do you? I'm not really sure what a siren is, but sirens. I hear sirens.
Ed, that's just something we could have talked about off the air. You just, I don't know. If I were a sensitive man, and I can,
which you're not,
and I can be, I would have my feelings hurt there a little bit. I guess you're going to mock my word feelings, huh?
No, feelings.
Okay.
Nothing more than
feelings. All right. So anyway. However you want to say it, people. Siren. What did you call it?
Siren.
Siren. Okay.
So
I'm asking you when the tornado sirens go off, does that move you at all? Does that depend on where you are?
It didn't move me the other night.
Did you hear them?
I did.
You live way out in the sticks, don't you?
Well, okay, so I had come back. I live in a small town to the west of Tupelo, Mississippi, where our flagship station is.
Yeah.
I had come back into town during the storm because I had an elders meeting at church.
Okay.
And that's where I heard the siren.
Okay.
When I got out of the car, I said, "Oh, that's not a good sign." And then
it doesn't matter where you live if it's a tornado, though. Sticks or no sticks.
Yeah.
Well, whether you live out in the sticks, you got sticks flying.
Yeah.
If you live in town, you got bricks flying. So Wesley, I'm doing a survey here. I'm going to get to our Nova Scotia man here in a minute.
And I got some more weather reports for you, but to answer your question, no, the sirens do not move me.
But you do stop for a minute, don't you, and think maybe it's coming my way, or
I do no.
Okay.
What I do is I do got to find a way to get this tin up over this grill because I got to finish grilling.
Oh,
man. Now, I'm going to say, you got a fist bump because you are true Southern man.
He's like an MMA fighter against the weather right there.
We got
a tornado coming through, but I got to finish the grilling.
I'm going to grill. I'm going to grill
toward the
meat.
end of the weather.
Somebody catch that burger.
I bet you're not grilling. You're not grilling bell peppers. You're grilling meat out there.
All right, Fred. Does a tornado sirens move?
Yeah, I kind of put it together with how high the wind is outside, and if it's, I'm listening to one of the local weather guys.
That's what we do. We all listen to the weather apps.
The local
news weather guys.
They show how far away this little twirl is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
pay attention to that.
It'd be a big twirl too.
Yes.
But anyway, listen.
However, 2 nights ago, mentioned, I was at a local gym, and I was, trucking along.
Right, you were working out.
Working out, and the sirens were going off, and it was pouring down rain. But I
keep
felt
working out.
I kept comfortable with that.
Yeah. I like it, man. We got manly men on this show.
I'm not going to stop in the middle. I got a mile and a half to go here.
Well, it does get your attention for those who live in towns and communities where they have those civil defense, sirens or sirens go off. But it does get your attention. But yeah, it's like anything else for people who live in tornado-prone areas. You get a little bit desensitized to those things. You shouldn't, but I guess you do sometimes.
By the way, this story, you can read more about this on our American Family News website, afn.net. Lots of great content there for you to find out additional information, including the recent tornadoes.
In fact, our lead story you can see, not just read, you can see at afn.net right now, afn.net. Our military people have been busy lately blowing up landmine setting vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. All right. You can go to our website right now. You can watch a video of some of these vessels being hit by our crack military people over there. I'm still amazed when I see these videos of these torpedoes just right over the top of these vessels. And you can see that right now in AFN.
I can't believe Iran is still sending boats out. I mean, so that Strait of Hormuz, which we've talked about many times, which is very critical to the world economy, quite frankly.
Yes, it is.
And it's only 20 miles across from Iran to Saudi Arabia. So Iran sent out ships that plant mines so that the ships that come through there would blow up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we destroyed them?
Yeah, we destroyed 16 of them in the last 24 hours. So we have been busy.
Iran's on a losing streak. You know that, right?
No kidding.
They can't catch a break.
Well, their leaders are leading that country militarily over a cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever leaders they've got left.
To the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
In this case.
Right.
Yeah. And President Trump is pretty proud of what we're doing to the Iranian Navy. He was talking about it yesterday, cut number 1.
Iran's drone and missile capability is being utterly demolished. The Navy is gone. It's all lying at the bottom of the ocean. 46 ships. Can you believe it? In fact, I got a little upset with our people. I said, what quality of ship? Excellent, sir. Top of the line. I said, why did we just capture the ship? We could have used it. Why did we sink them? They said, it's more fun to sink them. I said, they like sinking them better. They say it's safer to sink them. I guess it's probably true.
I think after President Trump finishes his second term, he should go directly to the stand-up.
Yes.
Because...
and make fun of his own self.
Yeah, no, that ain't going to happen. That's not going to be his shtick.
Yeah.
You know what? The United States military here, Operation Epic Fury.
Yes.
In all seriousness, they are just, to borrow from the Bachman Turner Overdrive song, they're just taking care of business.
Yeah.
And then they're taking names. This is a remarkable. What they brought to bear. This must have been in the planning for a long time, but what I guess what gets me a little bit is the Iranian military seems to be completely inept and completely unable to thwart anything that the Israelis or the United States does, and it's like. So I'm trying to think. Of course, I know these people don't always think rationally. Okay, especially when they're driven by religious ideology, or the Shia Islamic religious ideology. But you have these mullahs over here. I don't know what they do. They're by mullah we're talking about. Would it be religious leaders, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and so they command the military. But the military has to know, hey. we're getting our tails kicked every day, Mr. Mullah. Now, you want us to continue with this suicide mission? I'm just thinking if I'm their military, or do you want us to stop and you negotiate some kind of surrender? My guess would be if a military person offered that option to these the Ayatollah or whoever's in charge now, maybe they would say, well, off with your head.
I think that's part of it. I'm sure you have true believers, and then Wesley, I'll let you jump in here, but I'm sure there are true believers who will go down with the ship, so to speak.
And they're going down every day.
But I'm sure there are a lot of people serving in the Iranian military who, like you said, they don't want themselves or their families to be butchered. But I mean, we're talking about ideologues who slaughtered perhaps as many as 30,000 of their own people.
But if the military somehow decided to stage a coup or decided not to take the commands of these religious leaders any longer, then you got that would be the best case scenario right now for our cause.
Well, the only thing is, and then Wesley, I'm going to let you jump in here.
So you can talk.
The only thing is that the old expression, I'm paraphrasing here, I can't remember it exactly. If you're going to try to kill the king, don't miss.
Right.
And so somebody's going to have enough. Someone in the military is going to have enough people on their side to take that shot. Otherwise, if you don't succeed, you're a dead man. And that's what keeps people from taking that shot a lot of times when they have the chance.
Well, to my understanding, though, most of the quote kings have been killed, and a
lot of the leaders in Iran have been killed over the last couple, 10 days.
I would say we're probably getting a lot closer to that point that we're all kind of anticipating, where you're either going to have a civil war, or B, you're going to have somebody step up that says we're willing to meet.
I think they would have had a civil war now had the people been armed.
Yeah, that's right.
But of course, they never would have had 20 to 30,000 of their own citizens killed by the Ayatollah had they, had weapons. And I mentioned yesterday, if you want to see the wisdom of our founding fathers, the Second Amendment, let the citizenry have weapons themselves. That way, they protect themselves from tyranny. At least they have that out there, that option out there to use weapons to defend themselves. But in most countries, they don't have that option because to have a gun is illegal, and it's that way in there.
By the way, at least 13 high-ranking officials have been confirmed dead, including Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. But reports indicating up to 40 Iranian leaders may have died, including senior military intelligence and security figures.
I think we got to be getting close to reaching a point within the next week where we've destroyed everything we can destroy. It's time to come home. Seemed to me. I would say there's nothing stopping airstrikes, be it the Israelis or us. Now there's nothing to shoot them down. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, I said yesterday I'm predicting the whole thing in total from start to finish, and we're probably about halfway from what my prediction is. It's 2 months total.
Yeah,
the start from the first attack all the way to the end, as far as finding.
You just wonder how that conversation's going to go. Somebody's going to have to go tell the leader, and this guy, the leader is the Ayatollah's son, the one who got killed. His son,
Mojtaba Khamenei, I think.
They're
somebody's going to go tell him, hey, we got nothing left to fight with.
Yeah.
And then he's going to have to make a decision. Well, by gosh, go out there and, stand out there with a gun and look at the sky.
Yeah.
I don't know. but we don't have anything to fight with any longer. What do you want us to do?
Yeah, and someone like him, my guess, and time will tell, is that he would be like the one of the true believers that's willing to go all the way to the end. I mean,
all the way to the deepest bunker.
Yeah, well, it's deep. That's funny. Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, I just look at when I think of, and I'm no deep dive here on the Middle East, but when I think of Iran, When I think of the Middle East, I think of Islam. When I think of Islam, I think of terrorism. When I think of terrorism, I think of people that will kill themselves at the expense of their religion.
It is fanatical.
I know that. I just summarized just on a portion of 10% of Muslims, but that's what you think of. And if he's a leader of it,
right?
If he's a true believer, that's how you end up.
Has he even spoken? Anybody ever heard him speak?
They had a succession rally in Tehran, and he didn't even show up. Now that's
for his own rally.
For his own succession rally, I'm guessing he just didn't think it was safe to do it. He's probably right.
That's right.
Because either Israel or the U.S. can find.
You know what worries me is, again, like Wesley, I'm no military expert, but what worries me is I know how the Hamas operate in Gaza, and that is when they get. And this is what I'm fearing the Iranians are about to do. They're going to put whatever mobile missile launchers or whatever they have, they're going to put it in a hospital parking lot.
They're already starting to do that.
Okay, they're going to put it in a schoolyard. They're going to put it in a mosque or something. In other words, to make the Israelis and the U.S. hit innocent people on the ground and create collateral damage and then make the world outraged.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's worked time and again it
worked in
Gaza.
Yep.
In Gaza,
the only problem for the Iranians is that a lot of their weaponry was scattered throughout the country to protect its borders. Gaza's small, okay, so
that's true.
All your stuff was in kind of a restricted area anyway. Iran's a big country, 90 million people, but all their military was spread out. You had to have missile launchers to protect your navy down on the coast. Mm-hmm. And so what Israel and the U.S. did is we picked them apart before they could move a lot of that into like the capital city.
And if they use a missile launcher, and some of them are mobile, they say a lot of them, then we're going to know exactly where that came from the minute it leaves, and then we can go destroy it. So there, again, Iran, just looking at it from a rational, logical, they're going to have to surrender, or they're not going to have anything left at all in terms of their military.
So they probably would have done a good thing to meet before this all happened, and made a deal.
Well, Trump tried to. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Trump tried to meet with them and reason with them, but they were unreasonable people. Listen, we'll take a break right here, but come back with some more stories. But again, this comes down to, because I'm seeing people criticize President Trump for going to war with Iran and the Israelis, and I would just say this: nobody, raise your hand if you just love to go to war. I don't think anybody wants to go to war. And there are risks and there are downsides. That's right. But either you believe the Israelis and the American intelligence that these religious fanatics were about to have the capability of launching a nuclear weapon or weapons. If that's true, and President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu do nothing to stop them when they could, and then they hit with their nuclear weapons in the name of Allah, then you know what everybody's going to be saying? You mean to tell me that President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu knew this was imminent, or knew this could happen, and they didn't do anything? That's what the world would say. That's what the Democrats would say. They would say, he didn't even stop it when he could have. You see what I'm saying? So we'll be back momentarily.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildmon.
You probably never heard of Johnny Ring, at least not of the Johnny Ring which I'm speaking of, for Johnny isn't very famous. He did very little which our world considers worthy of fame. Nevertheless, the story of Johnny Ring needs to be passed on. Johnny lived during the war between the states. When a company of soldiers was being organized in the area in which Johnny lived, Johnny asked to be a part of it. However, the captain who was organizing the company had other thoughts. In his thinking, Johnny was too young and too little. The captain refused to take the boy into his group. But Johnny was persistent. If he couldn't be a soldier, he could be a soldier's helper. He asked to go along as the servant of the captain. Following some discussion, the captain agreed to take the boy along as his servant. He liked the boy's desire. "You will be a better soldier if I can help you take care of some of your things," Johnny said. Well, Johnny was a good servant. He kept the captain's boots polished, his tent neat, and his sword shining. But while Johnny was a good servant, he had his differences with his captain. Johnny had promised his mother before she died that he would read the Bible every night. Now, this didn't sit well with the captain, for he was an avowed atheist. Johnny would read his Bible in the captain's tent each night before he went to bed. One night, the captain ordered Johnny never to read the Bible in his tent again. Johnny continued to read, often reading while the captain was not in the tent. The troops under the command of the captain were surprised by the enemy one day and forced to retreat across a bridge. The Confederate forces set the bridge on fire. Suddenly, in the midst of battle, Johnny Ring was seen running across the burning bridge. Soldiers on both sides held their fire. Very shortly, the bridge engulfed in flames. They watched as Johnny Ring ran back across, carrying the prized sword of his captain in his hands. As Johnny reached the side where the captain was, he fell to the ground with clothes on fire. Some of the soldiers managed to get the fire out, but it wasn't long before Johnny Ring was dead. After Johnny was buried, the captain began to think seriously about Johnny Ring and his Christian faith. Maybe the faith that Johnny had would help him be like Johnny. And it wasn't too long until the captain embraced the faith of Johnny and claimed the carpenter of Galilee as his master. Nearly 15 years later, he became a Baptist minister. During his ministry, he founded Temple University, the Temple University Medical Center, and all told raised $11 million for Christian causes. More than once, when questioned about his long hours of work, he would say, "I have to live two lives, mine and Johnny Ring's. Johnny died for me." Like we said, you probably never heard of Johnny Ring. Maybe you have heard of Johnny's captain. His name was Russell Conwell, and he was the founder of Temple University.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildmon, a production of the American Family Association.
For we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. 2 Corinthians 5:1.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, Wesley, and Fred. We're joined now by our colleague Abraham Hamilton III. He's the host of the Hamilton Corner each afternoon on American Family Radio from 5 to 6 o'clock Central Time. Abe, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hey, before we jump into the topic that we're going to talk, what is the topic we're going to talk to Abe about? Abe, do you remember?
Well, I presented a question, and I didn't know if you guys decided you wanted to talk about it or not.
What is that?
And that is one of the things that I think that should be an immediate outcome following Operation Epic Fury is that it should become a normal conversation in America to discuss what the specifics are concerning the ideology of the murderous Iranian regime. I mean, we talk about a rogue regime, but we had a previous president who sent them, as President Trump said, pallets of cash, We're sending pallets of cash to people who literally believe they need to bathe the world in blood, and they have not moderated that position. And that's something that I think should be a more common conversation in our country, as opposed to it just being viewed as you bump into a person in the grocery store, they wouldn't realize that the governing authority in Iran is just that these apocalyptic, theocratic, murderous sycophants. Most people wouldn't think that, and I think that needs to be a more common conversation in our country.
Couldn't agree with you more. People need to be, and that's what we're trying to do here, is educate people on what, if there are many different kinds of ideologies that govern, rule countries around the world, and you have to deal with them, as they are. As you say, if you're dealing with communist China, you're dealing with a secular state. You're dealing with a totalitarian state, authoritarian state, but you're dealing with people who are not driven by religious ideology. On the other hand, when you're talking about a different kind of theocracy, you are talking about a theocracy in Iran. You're talking about people that, unlike China, where he gets up thinking about how can I control the people and maintain power and so forth. This guy in Iran is thinking about how can I bring about the end of the world and usher in the 12th Imam.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of ideology. So we were talking earlier about why these folks under normal circumstances in Iran, if you were a country like back in another war, you would say I surrender. Okay. Because we have been destroyed, our military has been destroyed, and we're not going anywhere, and there's no way to win this. So we're going to surrender, try to make the best we can, peace deal, and maybe we'll get some aid in rebuilding, rebuilding our country. But that's not the way these folks think. They think about, last man, they believe in sort of like kamikaze, almost, except it's a religious, die a martyr, so to speak. So anyway, go ahead. What is it that we need to understand about this ideology that the average person does not?
Well, to understand that is the ideology, and so when, like you lay out, when you see them not responding to surrender, when they've been battered as they've been battered, even to date in Operation Epic Fury, if you don't understand that, you don't understand why they're not surrendering. But they believe by not surrendering, they're doing better to facilitate their ideology. It's this same ideology that undergirds groups like Hamas, where you have billions of dollars being poured into them from all over the world, but instead of building, hospitals and schools and things to help their people and their citizens, no, they spend the billions of dollars building underground tunnel systems. Well, what are they building underground tunnel systems for? Because they want to hasten the end of the world. They want to see people die and murder and maim. When you see October 7th, that was not an aberration for them. That was consistent with their ideology. Now, I think that conversation.
Oh, we lose them. Can I just toss a question to the panel?
Toss it to Fred, because Fred hasn't spoken.
Fred, did you want to say something about what we were talking about? And then I do have a question if we can't get Abe back.
I agree with Abe's premise that after this conflict, there should be a conversation in this country about the Islamic ideology and what they're all about. They are about suppression. They are about everybody needs to surrender to us. But I go back to 9/11, and you would think when we had Islamic terrorists hit this country, 3,000 people died.
Yeah.
You would think in the wake of that, in this country, we would have had a better understanding and a warning that went out. But instead, what happened on our university campuses, you had Muslim student groups starting. And you had the idea Islam is a peaceful religion. And those guys who flew those planes into the Twin Towers and crashed into Pennsylvania and went into the Pentagon, they were just a tiny element of radicals. That's not us.
Fred, New York City, one of the worst hit on 9/11, okay?
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, they elected a Muslim mayor.
Yes.
So
what has happened?
There is a disconnect between the reality that the Western countries are facing and what they think is happening in the West. They think these are just a lot of peaceful people coming in and there's no problem.
Are we getting Abe back or no? You're working on it? Brent Freely, our producer, is working on it.
I do have a question just to toss to the panel while we're waiting. Because I think we're coming to a place where, just like the Western countries realized that fascism in World War II and then communism afterwards were you could not allow fascism to exist and maintain your own freedoms. I think we are coming to now. Europe may be past this point, but we are certainly hitting it here in this country. We need to consider Islam, and especially Islamism, which is basically real Islam. We're taking over and doing whatever we can to take over. That just cannot be allowed to be taught on college campuses. What I'd like to ask Abe, and maybe we'll just have to do this another time, how do Western cultures maintain their own freedom of speech while saying you can't advocate for the overthrow of Western values? That's not covered by free speech. I don't know how you save free speech as a value and a principle, and then let what's happening even in this country go on with Islam.
Can I offer a? This may come out wrong, but I'm going to offer. Let me see if Abe's here, and then we'll offer it to him. Abraham.
Well, offer it to me. I went to law school.
I could offer it to you.
You went to law school?
I was going to offer it to our listeners.
YouTube.
I was going to offer it to our listeners. Somebody's got to play the liberal on here, and
that's you.
I was going to do it. Not that I believe my own words, but
right.
I got to throw an idea here. We got Abe back. Okay, where do we drop? Where do we leave this, Abe?
Well, I was still talking. I was talking about the Muslims, about the money that's been spent in Iran, not only Iran, and with Hamas to build underground tunnels, and to most American citizens, that makes no sense at all. If you have people that are starving and need help with food and things of that nature, why would you not use the money for that? Well, because their ideology is that we have to bathe the world in blood. So that's what I was saying.
Okay.
But you guys were talking.
Yeah, we were, and we can talk.
With the best of them.
Yeah. Let me just say, I'm joking about being the liberal, but let me just say this. What makes it hard to discuss in this topic is when we're talking about Islam, first of all, there are branches of Islam, okay? Mm-hmm. It's not monolithic. You have the Sunnis, you have the Shia, you have some offshoots of Islam around the world. Secondly, what makes it difficult now, we can talk about the history of Islam and how they use the sword to conquer, yes, but you cannot, if you're trying to be a peacemaker and be diplomatic and have relations, you cannot castigate a whole religion based on the actions of a few.
Sure.
If you do that, you're going to have to be really careful how you do it, because you have there are many of the Arab countries that are also Sunni Muslim. They don't like the radicals any more than we do. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you take Saudi Arabia, they don't like the Bin Ladens in their country because they're a threat to their the rule of the Saudi family, whatever they call that. The Egyptians, they've done away with the Muslim Brotherhood as an effective organization. That's the radical branch of Islam inside Egypt. Jordan doesn't have these people who won't. They've been at peace with Israel. And they, you know what I'm saying? And they're Muslim.
And in fact, that's what Iran, one of the things Iran was known for is trying to get those more radical versions in charge of places like Jordan and Saudi Arabia.
So I'm just saying you can't just castigate. Is Islam a false religion? The Bible teaches that, yeah, because it's not worshiping the true God.
Right.
Of the Bible. So yes, it's a false religion, just like other religions are. But so do you understand what Fred? Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? You just got it on a diplomatic level, and really in fairness, you got to be careful about just slamming all Muslims and saying they're all terrorists. Go ahead.
I agree. And Abe, question for you and the panel. But where do you draw the line? In this country now, we have cities where the call to prayer over speakers. Is that a signal that, okay, we're entering a danger zone here? Or when Muslims gather on streets, whether it's New York or wherever the case may be, for prayer.
They shut down Times Square.
Is that a tipping point where you say, wait a minute, these folks, because that's symbolic of we want to take over this city. When they take over a street to pray, that is a signal. That is more than just a prayer meeting. That is a signal that we want to take over this turf. Where legally, Ed or Abe, you're the expert here, where legally can this country draw a line?
Yeah, I want to answer that question, but I want to respond to the comments Tim made as well, because I think Tim's comments are definitely reasonable. And I think Tim's comments raise the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying. It should become a more common phenomenon for Americans to be able to articulate, well, what is the most violent sect? What is the most likely iteration or source of the violence? Like, you literally have the Iranian governmental apparatus prior to Operation Epic Fury was, and still is today, one that is among the 12 imams, these 12ers that want to bathe the world in blood. This is what they're trying to export around the world. We say the world's number one state sponsor of terror. That is a true statement, but it's not one that clearly communicates why this type of ideology should be identified and excoriated around the world. You know, it's no different than us being able to make well, I won't say no different. I'll say it's akin to us being able to make the distinction between, a communist Chinese regime that wants to be the world's number one superpower versus kind of Marxist-leaning Nordic states, who like Scandinavian states. I mean, not Nordic, Scandinavian states, and like the Swedes and others who kind of moderate that position over time. They did share the common ideology, but they tried to moderate that position. I feel like the American people are often destabilized and sometimes are surprised to learn that you have people say these things. Like you had Zohar Mamdani, who said a couple of weeks ago that his faith begins with Muhammad being a minority going into Medina. When I had Bill Federer on my show last night, who was saying, you know what Mamdani left out? That 5 years after Muhammad entering Medina, there was not a Jew left in the city. He left that part out, And so what I'm saying, by having a populace who's not aware of that part of Muhammad's history, we are disarmed, so to speak, in order to properly assess. It's the responsibility is on Mamdani to identify, I condemn the fact that Muhammad led to the slaughter of Jews who remained in town, those who enslaved and other things of that nature. If he's going to come out and say, I have this warm and fuzzy feeling about my journey in America being similar to Muhammad's journey into Medina, that's what I'm saying. And to the point that Fred made, I know this has been a long soliloquy, I'll stop right here. We have laws. Anytime anybody violates our laws, they should be arrested and they should be prosecuted. You can't shut down a city street for any reason. We have a First Amendment, but I can't just make a unilateral decision. We're going to have a Christ-centered prayer meeting at City Hall and shut down City Hall just because I want to exercise my faith. No, we have laws that have to be complied with. And we know from history that when you're able to shut down a city block in the name of your prayer meeting, that it is an exercise in external demonstration of an effort towards subjugation. That is not private veneration of anybody's religious faith. Sorry for the long dive.
All right, I just wanted
to... then Wesley.
Yeah. So let me. We were talking while we were trying to get you back, Abe, about the strain that the First Amendment is put under when you're dealing with an ideology like Islam. Do you think we can ever come to a place, let's say in the political sphere, because we don't have all day to talk about all the other areas, that in the political sphere, would it be constitutional to say nobody who believes that Western values are paramount, of paramount importance, can serve in politics. In other words, you have it sounds like a religious test, and I know that's constitutionally prohibited, but do you think the time would come where we say, if you cannot wholeheartedly uphold our Western values, you can't serve in government? And I'm specifically talking about these radical Muslims who want to take over, become mayors, and so on and so forth.
Is Mondani a radical?
No, I don't know if he is, but what about that? I know you can't have a religious test, but this religion has people in it that say Sharia law is above everything, including the Constitution,
including swearing on the Quran with their hand, as opposed to
what about that, Abe?
Well, Article 4 of the U.S. Constitution guarantees that every American citizen a right to a constitutional Republican form of government. Anybody who does not commit themselves to upholding our Constitution disqualifies themselves from being able to serve in our government. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I know the application becomes challenging, but it is not unreasonable nor illegal to require those who would serve in our government to protect and defend our Constitution.
All right. Wesley's got a question, and I do. I have a comment after Wesley. And then
all right, Abe. I'm in this panel right here. I'm the lay person with very little education, and I'm the one that I usually ask for forgiveness versus permission. All right, in this panel. So I'm looking at this going, I hear what we're all saying, and we've been dealing with this for years. I think Fred alluded to the issue about how this ideology often gets swept under in the emotional side of the not all type, position. However, we have, for me, layperson here, decades, generations, hundreds of years, thousands of years of this ideology being radically different than Hinduism, than atheism, than as it relates to the bloodthirstiness of terrorism. My first reaction is everything else we've said is secondary to if you put your hand on the Quran and you swear by it in the United States, you shouldn't be able to be elected. But anyways, I guess I'm more of the, like I said,
You're an Islamic phobe.
I'm an Islamic phobe.
That's what you would be called if you
Sure.
said that. Let me. Was that just a comment, or that was a layman's
I guess what I'm saying is that but I had that statement before you. I think you answered it while answering Ed's question about Article 4, and about at the end of the day, even though I'm pretty emotional about this, there is a standard in which you have to adhere to be in elected office, which is you have to agree with the Constitution. You have to follow the Constitution.
That's true.
So,
you're listening to the radio program Today's Issues on American Family Radio. I'm Tim, Ed, Wesley, and Fred. And
I'll go back to my corner now.
Abe, that's all right. Abraham Hamilton III joining us, host of the Hamilton Corner each afternoon. All right, guys, I'm gonna throw this one out. I'll throw this out at Abe first, and then you guys, because I got you right here.
Okay.
Okay. Here's what that great thinker, probably Whoopi Goldberg. Did I say Goldberg?
You said Ghoul.
That is.
You said Goldberg.
That was a slip of the tongue. I did not mean to insult.
That was a Freudian
her
slip.
Name. Okay.
It wasn't accurate, though. It wasn't accurate.
Goldberg.
Goldberg.
Okay. So, how would we? All of us are Christians here. We believe in the Bible's admonition, the teachings of Jesus, to spread our faith. Right?
Yeah.
So, what would you say, Abe, to someone who says, well, you Christians here are a bunch of hypocrites? Because, now, I could talk about the value of hypocrisy but later. But, I mean, they would say, okay, you don't believe that Islam should be proselytized in America. You're warning about the dangers of that. All the while, you folks teach about surrendering your life to Jesus Christ and putting that above the Constitution. So I'm not. They would say I'm not seeing the difference between you say you're a Christian first and American second, and a Muslim says, well, I'm a Muslim first and an American second. What's the difference?
I have one huge difference.
Okay, go ahead.
When's the last time you had a Christian who killed somebody in the name of Christ and built an entire government regime that is seeking the development of technology for the express purposes of blowing up every non-Christian so that we can hasten the end of the world?
That's a good answer. Because they're going to say you guys are for proselytizing just like the Muslims are. What's the difference, Ed? What would you?
Well, I would say I certainly agree with what Abe says. I would say that there is a difference between someone a Christian. Now that's a great question, Tim, because there are
why I'm here.
There are Christian denominations that don't think Christians should be involved at all in politics or culture. And I understand that. But the majority of Christians believe we have a right to build our communities and our nation together. I think I'm fine with everyone practicing their religion, their faith. I certainly believe Christians should be able to do that, and they should be able to try to convince their fellow Americans to vote for our values, because our argument in the public square is that our values are good for everyone. Everyone benefits by following God's laws. But I'm not going to force someone to believe the way I believe, and I'm certainly not going to kill them, certainly not going to advocate murdering a Christian who decides to leave the Christian faith. And Islam, by the admission of its own teachers, Islam does not support democracy. It does not support a republic. And their views are in contradiction to or contradictory to the values we share under the Constitution, whereas the Constitution came out of a Christian worldview. So
that's a very good distinguishing point, and that's hugely important because I think the average American out there, when it comes to religions, are dumb as a rock.
I agree. I agree.
You see what I did there with the Iraq thing, where Muslims live for the most part. I think the average American is ignorant. They think all religions are the same, pretty much. If you were to ask, well, they believe in God too, and they
feed the poor.
They feed the poor. I believe in goodness, and they're not very discerning, or have they educated themselves on the things we've been talking about here this morning, because fundamentally, Islam as a religion is totally incompatible with Western-style democracy. That is just plain as day. If you look at where Muslims dominate countries, they don't have Western-style democracy. And so, for us who you think we're being paranoid here and Islamophobic, no.
They have no-go zone.
No, it's only that we're worried that if you get a majority of a significant number of Muslims in a country, they turn it in to what we see in the Middle East.
Right.
And that's not an unreasonable fear.
Yes.
To have. You call that Islamophobic if you want to, but that's a reasonable look at reality. We'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Getting married, starting a family, their eternal values and ideals. These are core values that shaped this country for so long. These are values and ideals that are rooted in Scripture. They're eternal values and ideals.
At the Core with Walker Wildmon and Rick Green, where culture meets biblical truth. weekdays at 1 Central on AFR. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Israeli ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, speaking to reporters at the United Nations today about his country's military strikes in Lebanon. The ambassador says the strikes are necessary to help protect Israel from attacks by Hezbollah.
Israel does not want to be operating inside Lebanon, but Israel will not accept rockets fired at our people, and we will do whatever is necessary to stop them.
The White House is trying to calm fears about higher gas prices after President Trump said the war with Iran could end very soon. The Strait of Hormuz has been a frequent target since Operation Epic Fury began, with U.S. forces eliminating multiple Iranian naval vessels, including 16 mine layers near the strait. President Trump has warned Iran that there will be consequences if more mines are placed in the strait. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum says now is the perfect time to think about releasing some reserved oil to help ease pain at the pump.
These are the kinds of moments that these reserves are used for, because what we have here is not a shortage of energy in the world. We've got a transit problem, which is temporary.
Cleanup continues from violent storms that ripped across the Midwest last night.
In Lake Village, Indiana,
multiple homes destroyed. Lake Village took a direct hit, so please stay away from the area.
Fire crews confirming the worst, 2 deaths in Lake Village as search and rescue operations continue from the same tornado that battered Kankakee, Illinois.
They hit this building behind us and some of the buildings a little bit farther north, but the buildings on the east side of the road have been damaged as well.
Assistant Fire Chief Dal Emerson, grapefruit-sized hail also reported in Kankakee. Trees and power lines down, thousands without power, with Fox Weather calling for a 2 out of 5 storm threat again today. From southeast Texas to New Jersey, Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
CNN is facing backlash on social media over a now deleted post on X about 2, quote, Pennsylvania teenagers who were charged with throwing bombs at a protest near Gracie Mansion in New York City. The post read, quote, 2 Pennsylvania teenagers crossed into New York City Saturday morning for what could have been a normal day enjoying the city during abnormally warm weather. But in less than an hour, their lives would be drastically changed, as the pair would be arrested for throwing bombs. Fox News contributor Joe Concha says, talk about burying the lead.
Not only did they bury the lead, they put it like 10 feet under, picked it up and buried it again. Imagine if CNN covering the Pearl Harbor attacks of 1941, it would sound something like this. 2 Japanese sailors were in the Pacific in search of mermaids, like in that Tom Hanks movie Splash, when suddenly they stumbled upon this thing called Hawaii and the U.S. military port called Pearl Harbor, when suddenly they were unwittingly engaged in these attacks on U.S. naval operations.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth gave an update on the progress of the war in Iran and closed his portion of the briefing with some scripture and a prayer.
Secretary Pete Hegseth told the press that things are going incredibly well in the skies over Tehran, but that the Pentagon is not taking its foot off the gas. There are only 1/10 of the number of missiles being launched from Iran against allied countries, and the war will end when President Trump says it will. And then...
I'll close with scripture, drawing strength from Psalm 144. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle.
AFR Taco's Jenna Ellis notes what a difference an administration makes. Not only would the Biden administration not have gone in to stop the Iranian threat, but they also certainly wouldn't be giving God any credit.
He's not allowing his position as Secretary of War to diminish his open love of the Lord and invoking of Scripture, and we need more of this.
She says President Trump has surrounded himself with a team of Christian leaders.
There are so many cabinet members in this Trump administration that are willing to openly read Scripture, pray, call upon the name of the Lord.
But she says, don't stop there.
And I wish that there was a recognition even more so of what the Bible requires of a legitimate civil government.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
There's more news online at afn.net and on the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Every day, AFA offers biblical insight on issues that others aren't willing to touch in the hopes that you'll become a world changer. That's why we're offering an in-depth worldview training course called Activate. 13 different professors teaching 18 sessions, all available online, including a printed workbook to help you apply what you've learned, and 1-year access to AFA streaming content to give you even more resources. Find out more about Activate and sign up today at activate.afa.net.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Tim, Ed, Wesley in the studio here. We thank you for listening. We got 24 and a half more minutes of the show left here. Joining us is Steve Paisley Jordahl. Good morning, Brother Steve.
Good morning, everybody.
All right, so we wanted to mention real quickly, too, again, that if you listen to AFR and your life has been impacted, we want to know about it because we want to play your testimony on the radio during our AFR Share-a-thon coming up in about 3 weeks or so. So here's what you need to do. You call the number I'm about to give. You say, okay, this is so-and-so, and my name is Sam. I'm from, Greenville, Texas. And here's how, thank you for letting me share or whatever. And then you share how AFR has impacted your life. Obviously, it's the Lord Jesus Christ that's had the ultimate impact on your life, but how has he used AFR to as a vehicle for reaching you for the Lord? That's what we're asking you to do. So a minute or two, short story. We'd love to hear from you across the country so that we can play those. Again, you don't have to give your last name. You can if you want to. But all you do is say your first name and what town you live in or what station you listen to. So if you got a story like that, we'd love to have that and play that. Here's the phone number to leave your recording. 877-876-8893. 877-876-8893 is the phone number. Hey, we got some great news. Talk about that, Steve.
Well, I'm just reading this. Pixar. Pixar is the animation studio that brought you hits like Elio, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you know, maybe someone with younger children, Wesley, in here might know. But were they Frozen? Was that a Pixar?
I'm not sure if it was. Is Pixar? Is that not also Disney? Is that one of the same?
Ed, type that in.
That's right.
Pixar, Disney are the same company, right?
Well, I think they bought Pixar. Pixar was originally an independent film studio, and Disney bought them. So they are a subsidiary of Walt Disney.
But are they responsible for Frozen? Pixar, I'm talking about.
I think
Can you
so.
look up that?
We'll confirm.
I'm really disappointed
I'm going to look that up.
You guys don't know your movie company.
I think that's a Disney. I think that's a Disney film. It was produced by Walt Disney Animation Studios. So you're going to get animated films by Disney and the subsidiary Pixar because Pixar is kind of unique and people like their animation. So Frozen was produced by Walt Disney Animation Studios.
Are you ready to let it go? Can we move on?
I am ready to let it go.
Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles.
That's Pixar?
These are all Pixar. All the Toy Stories. These are all Pixar
Those
films.
are Disney. So,
well, Disney bought
you already told us that. Yeah.
And so that just like they bought the Star Wars franchise.
Yeah.
And
they bought it after it was
Marvel.
Successful.
Yeah.
The news.
He had a good point.
The news
had a good point. I'm sorry.
I think he's getting to a point.
We're talking over each other here, and I try not to do that. If you've noticed, what were you going to say, Wesley?
I was going to say that I think that Steve has a point to this story that we need to let him get to.
Well, I was just going to say there is news regarding Pixar, and that is that they have decided to scale back on the LGBTQ content.
Good.
This is their chief creative officer. His name is Peter Docter, Docter. And this is what he said about a movie Elio, which they kind of de-gayed. They took the gay out of this character.
They de-gayed it?
That's what they did. He says he didn't want to force parents to have conversations they weren't ready for. He said, we're making a movie, not hundreds of millions of dollars of therapy. And I think
You're ready to be canceled.
Well, a couple paragraphs down, I think, is where they buried the lead. Ilio opened to record low numbers for Pixar, debuting at $20.8 million domestically and $14 million overseas. At the time, it was the first original film following Elemental, which was its previous low.
That was a Marvel movie, right? Is it? Or
Elemental?
That was
Elemental was it's another animated film.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, so what we got here, the point is, you have this guy's, he's at the very top, right?
Yeah, creative director. As time goes on, he says, I realize my job is to make sure that films appeal to everybody.
Okay, so you got this guy, and he's saying, listen, these LGBT, shoehorning these LGBT characters and storylines into children's animated movies is a disaster. And we're not here for financial disasters. We're here to make money and to entertain people, and so we're not doing this anymore. That's what he's saying right there. And you had these woke movies, especially kids movies. They're bombing. Okay, you got that Snow White movie that came out last year. Wasn't again a Disney remake. I'm like, at some point, I'm going like, can we not come up with some original stories here?
Well, they did live action versions of almost all their animated movies.
Yeah, but it was a disaster. You had this actress playing Snow White that was not white.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
and she despised the original Snow White.
Right.
She didn't think that the prince should kiss her and
Snow White.
Yeah. She also was very political against Israel.
Yeah.
So, and was very outspoken. And I'm going like, if you're a movie studio, you tell your actors and actresses, listen, you keep your mouth shut about politics while we're doing the show and the movie's out. You want to come back a year later and whatever, but we're trying to get people to come to the movie. We want all people to come. Right. Like Michael Jordan used to say, they said, well, aren't you going to criticize
President
Bush?
Bush, yeah.
He said, no, that's not my job. My job is to Republicans buy tennis shoes too.
Right. Sell tennis shoes.
Right. The Nike Air Jordan Brown. So here you have a situation where this fella, I don't know how much criticism he'll take, but he's saying that we're not going to push the LGBTQ agenda in our movies, our animated movies for kids. That's not why we're here. That's what he's saying.
Yep.
So good for him.
Well, and look, here's by the way, it was Eternals was the Marvel movie I was thinking about rather than the, what did you
Elemental.
Elemental. So I got those confused, which I do more and more
Well, I did
the
too,
older I
so
get.
That's okay. You got the Eternals, the Evolutionist, and what?
No, the Eternals and Elementals was the
Elementals.
animated kids show.
And the elephants.
And elephants.
And
They're in
elephants.
kids shows.
Elephants are.
Okay, go ahead.
But that's Dumbo.
You were going to say.
You guys done? You guys?
Yeah, we apologize.
Whatever it is that was.
We apologize.
Okay. All I was going to add to this is that I think the reason even Elio bombed was because people had begun tuning out to anything produced by Pixar. They just began, because this happened to the Marvel universe and it happened to the Star Wars universe, because I read comments. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but I read comments on these movies to kind of gauge where viewers and fans are. And the same thing with the Marvel movies. I know, Tim, this is going to be a
down my
surprise
alley.
to you, but after Avengers Endgame, their movies, Marvel movies, began to tank because they started going woke, and people don't see superhero movies for that reason. They don't want to be lectured, and they don't want to be told they're wrong, or they're this or they're that, and they started ignoring the brand. And that, I think, is what Pete Docter with Pixar, the creative chief, is trying to recapture. He wants people, especially parents, who fork over the money to take kids to the movie, to stream the movies, to buy the merchandise, to trust Pixar again, not to preach at their kids, especially with these controversial issues. Listen, this story, I'm looking at a story from The Guardian. There's a half dozen movies where they knowingly put LGBTQ themes and characters into their movies, and parents just started bowing out. And they may never get these people back. Star Wars may be a damaged franchise forever because of what Disney has done to it.
Well, especially for your animated movies that are designed for, say, under 10 or under 12-year-old children. And Star Wars may be a little bit older demographic, that's their target audience, a little bit more mature. But you deal with children, even liberal parents don't, like this fella said, this Pixar, and he's not a conservative, I doubt he is, but this Pixar...
he's a capitalist.
Yeah, but even he is saying, he said parents don't want to have, parents of children don't want to have conversations about sexuality when they leave the movie theater.
Right.
And so we're not putting that in there anymore. That's what he's saying, basically. And good for him. And that's an economic reality.
I just want to toss one other thing, and then if Wesley wants to jump in here, we'll let him.
Okay.
But back when I used to do a lot more media, I'm talking about back in the early 2000s, and I would debate with homosexual activists on this talk show or that talk show. And here was my mic drop moment where I could always expose their hypocrisy, okay? When I would complain about shows with LGBTQ themes, they would say, listen, parents are the ones who should determine what they tell their kids. We're just bringing up the conversation so parents can have those conversations with their kids. And I would always say, so you'd be fine, we're talking about Disney, you'd be fine with a Disney show preaching Christianity to little kids so that parents can have that conversation with their kids, right? You think that's okay? And they would always say, no, of course not. And I said, well, guess what? Parents don't want Disney forcing a conversation about homosexuality either.
Right.
And they had no response because everyone knew what they were
nailed
doing.
it.
They were evangelizing children.
Right, that's right.
And circumventing the parents.
That's right. Wesley, go ahead.
Amen.
Amen, brother Ed.
Amen. Listen, I hadn't been on the show in a couple of days, 2 days. I'm raring to go.
Hey, another point that I wanted to remind us of or emphasize on this topic is, and that's it. You go back 10 or 15 years ago, there was really no sight that, for the most part, the church at that point had been hijacked on this issue. They were very empathetic, soft on this issue from a cultural standpoint, meaning especially policy-related standpoint. And there was no sight at the end of the tunnel on this issue. In fact, this one, wokeism, there's a handful of cultural issues that have taken such a hard turn. They were gradually shifting away in the last few years, but when President Trump got reelected for the second time in 2024, we have had such, from a policy standpoint, 180s on a lot of far left issues, to the point where his election also is now impacting companies to make better choices. And so I just think it's important for us to take a moment just to say that this is a good thing, when there was a period in our history where you couldn't.
We were losing.
We were losing.
We're losing every day.
Losing every day. And every day was bad news because it was one more kid being drugged to a drag queen story hour with no hope. So the 180 that we're seeing here I don't think it gets the and all that goes on. We got to remember Galatians 6, where we don't grow weary in doing good, because in due time you'll reap if you don't give up. And we're seeing a lot more victories and wins than I think we realize until we get another Democrat in office.
Also, I think these LGBTQ activists and these secular progressives, they went too far too fast.
That's exactly right.
And the general public rejected that. And that's what we're seeing reflected. The general public is against boys playing women's sports just because you call yourself a girl. So that's a big loser issue for the Democrats. I don't know if they're going to fight for that. They're going to continue.
They will.
Fight for that. But I'm saying issues like that, people go, no, that's going too far. That's going too far. You're listening to today's issues, otherwise called Ed Unleashed. Here on American Family Radio, we keep Ed off the air for 3 or 4 days, and then we just bring him on and give him a couple of Diet Cokes and let him go.
Well, I will say this. My wife is making a big crock pot full of marinara sauce.
That's what I'm talking about.
So
what time are we going to be over?
No, I'm not sharing it with anybody.
Crock pot.
I'm not even letting my wife have any. So I'm pretty psyched today. I'm going to be in a good mood all day.
A big marinara.
A big
Marinara,
crock pot
marinara.
Marinara sauce to put on the spaghetti, I guess.
Well, I'm a rigatoni guy.
Sure.
Now,
I will eat spaghetti.
This is homemade too, right?
It's homemade.
You would not do
this is
out
not
of a bottle
jarred.
or jar.
It's not jarred sauce.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. Steve, what is your next story?
You may think.
I may think.
That we went to war with Iran because they are a malevolent force in the world and that they've been sponsoring terror around the world, that they are threatening nuclear disaster, that there's 100 reasons why you may think that we went to war with Iran, but you would be wrong.
According to...
Because, well, obviously, Ed, we went to war with Iran. President Trump wanted to distract us from the Guthrie case, apparently, according to Whoopi Goldberg, cut 17.
You're right. Every day is something new. And it's, I was thinking about it yesterday because I thought, well, okay, why haven't we been talking about Savannah Guthrie and what's going on there? Why haven't we not been why have we not been talking about the Epstein files? Because that's still there. This is meant to get us so worked up that we are unable to see anything else.
It's a very wag the dog feeling. Very wag the dog feeling.
Yeah.
So the worst part about that is the part where she said, "I've been thinking," because that means that she was actually.
Hey, listen. How do I say this?
Be careful.
Those people in the view are idiots.
There is one conservative on there, I think. No,
in name only.
Yeah.
Joseph Farah's daughter. What's her name? She's out.
That's
right
part
now.
of the show.
Listen, I'm talking about. Can we just being objective? Just stand back and listen to what they say. I can't believe they have any viewers at all, because this is idiocy. You may say I'm against the war, but to say President Trump went to war with Iran because Savannah Guthrie's out of the news? I mean,
to
cover up for the Savannah Guthrie. What is
Nancy Guthrie? And the Epsteins.
To get and Epstein. What is Epstein? What are you saying there? I mean, you take it. You helping out Bill Clinton there?
Yes, right.
You take Epstein's story off the news. Am I right?
You're right about that.
Well, listen, I do want to disappoint you, though, here. I do want to disappoint
you. That was Whoopi Goldberg, right?
That was.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
So I typed in the viewership of The View.
Yeah, tell me.
So The View had a strong performance in early 2026, its viewership reaching notable highs.
Oh, yeah.
For the week, this is in December, the show averaged 2.6 million total viewers, marking a multi-month high. This performance placed The View at rank number 7 among daytime broadcast shows, with strong gains.
There's no hope for America.
So,
none at all. I mean, if that's the case,
to flip flop and encourage you.
Yeah, encourage me.
It's not even 3 million viewers in a country of 330 million.
True. That's true.
So it's relative. These numbers are relative.
It's much higher than CNN, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you're right. They get a lot of attention because they're all liberals. And
they're provocative.
And they're deep thinkers. Too. And that's why you get an intellectual breakdown like what Whoopi Goldberg shared right there.
That was Bozoville.
I have just figured out where Tucker Carlson's getting his material.
From The View?
From The View, no doubt.
Don't make me sad.
That makes me sad.
What's happened to Tucker? I don't know. Anyway, all right. You're listening to today's issues. That's the only clip from The View. That's
it. No more.
That was so bad.
That was terrible.
She thinks Whoopi Goldberg, and then that Joy Behar.
Behar.
Yeah, I renamed her. No, she's a bear.
Wolfberg and Bear. We're thinking of the paint
Behar.
company.
Behar, my apologies. That's her name. She said, yeah, we're getting a little wag the dog here.
Yeah. Wag dog in the tail.
She broke out with her Brooklyn accent there, which is authentic, by the way, I think, or New York. So wag the dog. So there, and then the audience starts clapping. Yeah, Trump's doing this to get Nancy Guthrie's story off the front page.
To get those folks to clap, all you got to do is say Trump.
But is she saying that? She seems to be saying that President Trump had something to do
with the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie.
I mean, am I correct?
The Epstein file thing, I think you could at least make the argument that the left is making is that Trump's trying to cover up the fact that he's implicated in the Epstein files. At least I can understand them making that argument.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
But the Nancy Guthrie thing is absurd.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Skype.
And they're clapping like seals. Clapping seals. Let me just say this about what was it? It was I forgot what I was going to say exactly, but
it was good.
Yeah, it was good. Maybe I'll remember before the show's over. Go ahead, Steve.
All right. I want to give our condolences out to the family of Lonnie D. Wayman, who was laid to rest Tuesday in Tennessee. But he didn't have any family. Lonnie Wayman was a veteran. He was about 73 years old when he died. He passed of natural causes. But he was a veteran and didn't have any family. So the Department of Veterans Affairs in Tennessee said, here's where the funeral's going to be. We'd like to get some kind people out if they'd want to. Hundreds of people showed up to Lonnie Wayman's funeral. More than 200 were in attendance after the Tennessee Department of Veterans Services posted about his circumstances. So good for you.
So he had no family. So maybe a few friends might have showed up, but this was a spontaneous outpouring after the Veterans Affairs Office for Tennessee asked for people to show up. So these folks came out because he's just a veteran. That's it.
Gallatin, Tennessee. And just because I think they're showing their respect not only for this man, but for our military.
The gallant people of Gallatin.
There you go. Gallant.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Goofus, remember children's... there's a children's magazine that had a comic called Goofus and Gallant. It was Highlights. Remember Highlights?
Oh, yeah. When you went to the dentist.
You guys are losing me.
You don't remember
little children's magazine.
Highlights? Oh, I read that all the time.
Oh, Highlights. Yeah, I remember Highlights.
It had a cartoon in there.
And now they do it in hair.
Yes. But
you notice this?
I'm still lost.
Okay, after we just dogged The View,
that's right.
We probably need to be very careful about our comments.
It's coming back to us, isn't it?
That's fair.
All coming back to me now.
Steve can go.
Yeah, but ours was intentional. They were thinking.
Yes.
Right, they were serious.
And we avoid that at all times.
No, I love that.
That's a great story.
That is.
The citizens of Gallatin, Tennessee came out to support this veteran who didn't have any family.
Yep. Said one, we are proud to stand in respect for a man who served his country. No veteran should be forgotten. And today we make sure Lonnie's service and sacrifice were remembered.
Amen.
I'm just telling you, that gives me chills. There's still, folks, let me just encourage you a little bit, okay? Okay, I still got some energy. All right? Let me encourage you. This country still has a lot of great people in it. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of great communities, a lot of great churches.
Patriotic, God-fearing people.
Absolutely. This country hasn't withered away to nothing yet.
Right.
And they're trying to in New York City, but...
There's the music. We're out of time.
Gallatin, Tennessee, represented.
I say Gallatin, Tennessee, salute.
Thank you,
Wesley,
folks.
do you have any idea what we were referencing right there? See, he doesn't.
No, sir.
Salute, you mean when we did...
Yeehaw!
No, sir.
You don't know what yeehaw is?
It's also, yeah, I do know what that is. It's also not the first time that y'all have referenced something where I go quiet and start scrolling on my
Wesley.
On my computer over here.
You're gonna have to get with it on. You're gonna have to read up on your baby boomer.
Yeah.
I got news for you. You don't have to.
Yeah, I figured if I stayed on the show long enough, I'd catch on. But
my dad tried to turn me on to the Andrews sisters. Right. I said, nah, I'm sticking with Boston and Bachman Center Overdrive.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
My pleasure.
Thanks to Ed, Wesley, Fred, Brent Creeley,
Fred and Abe,
Cole Green, and Abraham Hamilton III. We'll see you tomorrow.
God's hand has been upon this nation from the beginning. Evidence of our spiritual heritage is obvious and inspiring if you know where to look.